Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the warm weather we've been having. Just a few more weeks until the end of school. Can you believe it? Today, Brittany and I are going to teach you all about English language learners with disabilities. At the end of our presentation, there is a Kahoot we would like you to play. We figured it would be a fun way to review some key aspects of our presentation. The game closes on Friday, June 11th at 10 p.m., the same time our comments are due. We hope you enjoy it. Now let's learn about English language learners with disabilities. Generally speaking, an English language learner with a disability is a student who is eligible for both special education and English as a second language, or bilingual education services. There are different identification issues associated with each service, creating variability in the definition of an English language learner with a disability across the country. Educators in different locales must be aware that they may not always be considering the same students when they refer to English language learners with disabilities. Students who are identified for special education may receive services for any one of the 14 federally recognized disability categories. Some variation in the primary disability categories occurs across states. Federal legislation requires that English language learners with suspected disabilities be assessed in both their native language and English to ensure that any difficulties with learning are evident in both languages and are not solely the result of a natural second language learning processes. Educators in schools report that providing appropriate assessments in two languages and differentiating language learning from language-related disabilities is extremely challenging. For this reason, there is a national concern with the accuracy of special education identification rates for English language learners. This concern is heightened for ELLs in some racial or ethnic groups. However, as English language learner does not have their own category under the 13 categories for New York State or the 14 for the federal level of categories of disabilities, the difference between those two categories is that the federal level included developmental delay as its own category. English language learners with disabilities who have IEPs may be identified as having one or more of the 14 disability categories recognized in federal policy. The categories and the approximate percentage of students who identify with these disabilities who are also English language in 2017 and 18 were autism 8%, deaf blindness less than 1%, developmental delay 3%, emotional disturbance 2%, hearing impairment and deafness 1%, intellectual disability is a 7%, multiple disabilities 1%, orthopedic impairment less than 1%, other health impairment 9%, specific learning disability was 49%. Speech or language impairment is 19%, and traumatic brain injury is less than 1, and visual impairment, including blindness, is less than 1. English language learners with disabilities have both language and disability-related needs that vary for each student. Successful instruction and assessment for English learners with disabilities are contingent on recognizing and addressing their unique needs. The data on the number of students in the categories of disability are collected each year through a child count process. Annual reports of these data may be found on the U.S. Department of Education website. Here are some general characteristics of English language learners with disabilities. Limited in English proficiency varies due to amount of time spent in the country, previous education, actual levels of English, other languages they speak, and the type of disability they have. They have a delayed response time, a difficulty blending sounds and speech, difficulty in reading and comprehending text, the misspell and incorrectly sequenced letters, poor writing skills, adds, deletes, or replaces words. They can paraphrase when speaking, trouble retelling a story, trouble with multi-step math problems, likely to either reverse steps and other memory problems, organization and processing problems, trouble with real-world connections, trouble following directions, easily distracted, aggressive or withdrawn behavior, social emotional problems, feeling overwhelmed with information. The most important thing that we as educators need to be aware of is that English language learners with disabilities have many characteristics that vary across students. So what might work for some won't necessarily work for all. So we need to make sure the right accommodations and resources are available to help our students. Now we'll look at the present levels of performance for a student we made up called Rosa. Rosa is a 4th grade student this year. She came from Mexico with her family. Rosa is an English language learner with a learning disability. Her family speaks Spanish at home, but is working with her to help her learn English. Rosa's present level of performance in academics shine in areas where she can show her creativity. She loves art, music, and all kinds of social media. She is thinking about starting a YouTube channel when she is older. However, Rosa does have challenges as well. She finds it hard to pay attention due to not being able to understand what's going on. Rosa struggles to read and write in English. In math class, she will often reverse the steps in an equation. And even if a teacher helps her remember a problem, she won't remember how to do it the next day. So Rosa's yearly goal is Rosa will be able to pay attention and complete tasks during class by using the visual aids and graphic organizers provided to her at 80% of the time of accuracy. The use of graphic organizers and visual aids will help Rosa to pay attention and relieve some of her struggles in her classes. Then we have Rosa's present levels of performance in the areas of social emotional development. Rosa's strengths include interacting well with other students who speak the same language as her, which is Spanish. Even though Rosa struggles at times, she tries to stay positive. Rosa struggles with group and partner work, especially if no one in her group speaks her primary language. She often says she feels overwhelmed and doesn't know what is going on. The language barrier also makes it difficult for Rosa to make real-world connections, which can cause her to become withdrawn in her group work. To help Rosa, we gave her a yearly goal that Rosa will be able to work effectively with a small group 90% of the time by including her in a group with a student or students who speak the same primary language as her. Then we have Rosa's present levels of performance in areas of physical development. Rosa has normal physical development and loves to play games in PE, especially dodgeball. However, she does struggle with poor handwriting skills. After observing Rosa, we believe that it is due to her lack of fine motor skills and her difficulty with writing English. To help Rosa, we gave her a yearly goal that Rosa will be able to develop fine motor skills to help her with her handwriting and writing skills. Rosa will be able to write legibly in 8 out of 10 sentences by practicing tracing exercises. Finally, we have Rosa's present levels of performance in areas of management. Rosa's strengths are as follows. She is a good listener, able to follow routines once she gets familiar with them. However, she does struggle with organization, following directions, and this causes her to feel like she is overwhelmed with constant information. To help Rosa, we gave her a yearly goal that Rosa will be able to use an agenda to write down homework assignments each night with 85% accuracy. Rosa will also have weekly binder checks to make sure her binder is organized and assignments are completed and turned in. Considerations for selecting interventions for English language learners with disabilities that teachers should keep in mind. 1, the student's language proficiency in their native language, or L1, and their second language, L2, across all domains. Number 2, the linguistic demands of the literacy intervention. 3, availability of native language support. 4, for designated ELD, English language development, students should be grouped with students with similar proficiency levels. For targeted interventions, English learners may benefit from being grouped with students with similar learning needs. Then here's some critical pre-referral information for student support teams. There are 4 key elements that the support teams need to consider when looking to start the referral process. Number 1, background information. This means the student's years in the United States, instructional program, the language of instruction, and gaps in instruction. Number 2, student characteristics. This means the first language and primary language and second language proficiency, immigration pattern, economic circumstances, and cultural interpretations. 3, classroom instruction. So this includes appropriate qualified personnel, differentiation, designated English language development, and integrated English language development. And 4, response to intervention. So this includes the tier 1 and tier 2. So tier 1 is the needs-based learning, and tier 2 was the start of the RTI team-driven learning. Here's the process to identify English language learners with disabilities as needing educational support. 1, initial ESL assessment and appropriate ESL and ELD instruction. 2, an ongoing assessment and progress monitoring. 3, if the student is not progressing as expected, conduct gap and error analysis. Complete other assessments to determine missing skills. 4, bring student's case to in-school team to discuss concerns and determine next step. 5, provide intervention, conduct ongoing assessments, and adjust program as needed. Number 6, if there is no improvement or there is no evidence that the student requires special education support, formalize through in or out school support team. Put an IEP in place. And number 7, if progress is not being made with special education interventions, bring to out of school support team to discuss possible psychological or psychoeducational assessment. Here are some classroom accommodations to help English language learners with disabilities. Check frequently for understanding, use visual aids and graphic organizations during instruction, teach students with the names of common objects in the classroom, systematically build background knowledge starting with what students bring to school, limit clutter and reduce distractions, accompanying oral presentations with gestures and facial expressions. Use clear, consistent language when introducing new concepts. Enunciate words clearly. Emphasize key works through increased volume and slightly exaggerated. Rephrase and restate information. Talk slowly enough for students to process information, pausing frequently to avoid overloading students with information. Use students' names to direct their attention. Try to seat students who speak the same language together. An advanced student can help explain directions or other information in their primary language. Seat students near the front of the classroom to enhance comprehension and decrease distraction. Use computers when appropriate, especially when programs use pictures and graphics. Allow students to incorporate their own experiences into learning situations. And finally, recruit people to tutor students in their first language. Here are some examples of assignment accommodations. Review previously learned material daily. Write assignments on the board. Allow students to use a dictionary and to make their own dictionaries, using illustrations and pictures to facilitate recall of new vocabulary. Allow students to work together rather than individually to acquire new information. Break down lessons into smaller components. Tailor lessons and assignments to students' level. And be sensitive to lessons that are culturally loaded. Cultural inclusion will assist with engagement and connectivity to prior knowledge. Here are some examples of language and reading strategies and interventions that could be used to help English language learners with disabilities. Remember that teaching vocabulary is crucial for English language development. And then allow students to use dictionary and to make their own dictionaries using illustrations and pictures to facilitate recall of new vocabulary. Provide a balanced approach to language development, emphasis on grammar and syntax, conversation and academic or decontextualized language. Use stories and narratives to enhance learning. Avoid frequent use of long words, slang, or idiomatic speech. Don't overtly correct students who are in the early or intermediate stages of learning English. Do a recast of students' utterance. Example, if a student says, "I'm having a good day," you can respond, "I'm having a good day too. I'm glad you are having a good day as well." Teach literacy to children by using writing from diverse language. and provide numerous opportunities for the students to speak and use English in academic and social settings with teachers and peers. Finally, Brittany and I have included 3 valuable resources that we think would be great for you all to check out. The first and probably the best resource is called Coloring Colorado. This is a bilingual site for educators and families of English language learners. It includes English language learner policies, school supports, how to teach English language learners, family information, books and authors, videos, and more. The best part is that the website is catered for English and Spanish speakers. You can change the language of the website to your specific needs. The other site that we have included is called the ELL resource website. This resource page is designed to inform students, parents, and teachers about ELL. The information provided on this site can be used to develop or strengthen students' ELL skills. Parents can also utilize this website to learn about different techniques and sources to aid their children at home. Teachers can similarly access this website to guide students in their classroom with different types of resources for ELL. Then finally, we have a video to help you learn more about English language learners with disabilities. It is a bit lengthy, but I think it is helpful to watch when you have some free time. So when you get a chance, please click on the links to check out these resources for yourself. Who knows, you might find it truly useful to utilize in your classroom. If you know or think of any additional resources that would be helpful to me and Brittany, please include them in this comment section of our post for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Now I will hand it over to my partner, Brittany, to finish up our presentation. Take it away, Brittany.